all of this, and that not only the certificate forgers, but also their accomplices should receive the full sanctions of the law. Fantastic. Now, it goes beyond when they say they're seeking stiffer penalties. First of all, what are the stiffer penalties you are seeking? What is the current position of the law? Two, is this going to apply retrospectively or it's only going to apply going forward? Because there's certain prominent politicians in Nigeria today who have huge clouds of controversy surrounding their certificates, and those questions, those clouds have not been addressed or swept away. So the truth of the matter is this: for as long as we continue to harp on certificates, as opposed to the ability of the individual to think critically, to process facts and come up with proper solutions, we will continue to find ourselves in this quagmire. Now, you want stiffer penalties, which presupposes the cases will go to court.
Mm.
They'll be prosecuted. What is the average length of time for criminal cases involving politically exposed persons? We're probably looking 5, 6, 7 years minimum. So, and the courts are already overburdened with huge caseloads. So, what court is going to deal with this?
Well, there must be a way that this can be done and should be done.
Of course. So, in an ideal situation, this shouldn't take a lot of time. So, what happens is, if a guilty person is discovered or detected, he's arraigned in court, and parties exchange documents, exchange evidence, and then the court sets down the trial for a fixed number of days, 5, 6, 7 days. This is what applies in the US. This is what applies in the UK. Remember the trial of the now disgraced music executive in the US. From the period he was first arrested and detained, trial was shifted to May this year.
Mm.
There was a long period for everyone to prepare. So, really and truly, if the House of Reps want to gain and secure the trust of Nigerians, don't start this at the university level. Start it from Abuja.
And work your way down.
Start from the top, work your way down. When you speak to HR specialists, HR officers, HR professionals, when you talk to corporate professionals, they'll tell you that when you want to shape the culture of an organization, you start from the top because it's more powerful, more effective, more far reaching when it starts from the top.
Mm.
That's why in serious countries, when chief executives or senior officers are found to have done things that run contrary to the organization's code of conduct, they have to leave. Because if they don't leave, they're then sending the wrong message to the rank and file. So the House of Reps should start with their chamber, their very own chamber. And then also probe political appointees, public office holders, elected and appointed. Because now is the time to clear the stable of those who have dodgy or controversial circumstances surrounding the certificates. And for the love of everything good under the sun, what is the difficulty in providing your certificate? Even if your claim that it is lost is true, you supposedly attended the institution, you supposedly wrote exams, you supposedly qualified. Write the school to issue you a document stating those facts. Yes, I agree some schools may be reluctant to issue another certificate. But the school should be able to confirm, look, this guy or this lady was a student from this period to this period and qualified, met all the conditions, and graduated with this class of degree.
There will always be a paper trail
Yes.
to follow.
So now they want to start, and again, they want to, another reason why I say they shouldn't start at the university level. We now find that some people enter school, universities with dodgy credentials. So the rot even starts long before the university. So it's a very interesting situation we find ourselves in. I wish the Senate will also adopt this, and I wish the law enforcement agencies would be a bit more serious. One would have thought that to set the record very clear, very straight, and make a strong point, the first person to visit will be the former Minister for Science and Innovation.
Right.
That let's get to the bottom of this.
And then move on from there.
Yes.
All right. What are your thoughts on this part on this particular issue? Let us know where you stand on this one. 0911 is the WhatsApp number to send your messages to. You can leave your comments on YouTube as well at Smooth 981 FM Lagos. Emeka Inikeche says, stiffer penalties for certificate forgers is fantastic, but what are the penalties for budget padding by our politicians? Ah, I wonder, Emeka, I wonder, just as you are wondering as well. All right, let's keep things moving here. Still talking about the House. I mean, they're dominating some of the news stories here this morning. We're stepping into the Guardian here. It says that the House of Representatives has directed its committees on midstream and downstream petroleum sectors to investigate the circumstances surrounding the stalled $35 million modular refinery project in Brass Delta State, Bayelsa State, which was financed by the Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board, that's the NCDMB. Now, this resolution was passed during Wednesday's plenary session following the adoption of a motion of urgent public importance moved by Honorable Billy Osawaru from Edo State. $35 million, and questions are being asked. Why did this stall?
Okay, so first and foremost, a modular refinery is sort of like a mini refinery that you can, set up and customize dependent on what extractive product you're trying to produce, whether
Right.
petrol, diesel, or whatever. And the whole idea is that they're supposed to be able to process small amounts of crude oil
Mm.
as against like a standard refinery. So this one was planned to produce 2,000, process 2,000
Barrels
barrels
per day.
a day, as against I think Dangote does 60,000 or so.
600.
600, sorry, a day. So that's it. And part of the aim was supposed to be able to improve or increase our crude oil extraction and processing capacity within the country. That's the whole idea. So this project was awarded, and now the House has discovered that nothing ever happened. Incidentally, this is a case that is currently being investigated by the EFCC. So sometime last year, a certain individual called Mr. Akintoye was picked up by the EFCC. So his company was awarded the contract to build the modular refinery, and he was accused of collecting the entire $35 million and diverting it into, other companies and other uses, build a change and all of that. So it's currently under investigation. Now, I just have a few questions. One, if the entire project sum is $35 million, why did they pay him the entire $35 million? I'm not sure that's standard practice in procurement. You're supposed to first of all give an advance, and then you have timelines, that the contractors are supposed to meet before you disburse the next tranche of funds and all of that. So it appears as though he was paid the entire $35 million upfront, which is strange. I'm not privy to how the contract was even awarded in the first place, but who knows? There might be some hanky panky that was involved in that. And putting that aside, now, so the House has now said that they want to investigate this. Technically, for me, if the case is before the EFCC, I'm not sure what it is that the House is doing that is going to be separate from what it is that the EFCC is already doing. What I would have expected them to say is to follow up with the EFCC and say, okay, what's the update on your investigations and all of that? Are you even doing anything? Come and brief us what's happening. Now the House is going to expend funds to conduct an investigation, and the EFCC has probably already or is probably already conducting, which is for me sort of like a waste of resources. And at this point, I'm also thinking there should have been some sort of capacity to prove that this company, this individual could execute this project. To the best of my knowledge, I'm not sure if they've ever built a modular refinery, if there's some sort of track record that would have earned them even the award of this contract in the first place. That is left to be seen. things like this should be, no kid gloves. There needs to be stringent action. So when the house comes and says things like, oh, we'll set up, we'll send our upstream and midstream committees to go and investigate and blah blah blah. That's not, in my opinion, that's not what they should be pushing for. They should be putting the heat under the EFCC to conduct a thorough investigation and come out with conclusive results. And let's know what's happening. So
Exactly.
clearly, the company, his company is called Atlantic International Refinery and Petrochemical Limited. That company was clearly, disbursed the total funds of $35 million, and they've said that nothing has actually happened. Not one sod of soil has been turned. Apparently, how do we even get to that point?
How is that even possible? I mean,
You're
You
looking in
know?
the wrong place.
Okay,
funds,
I'm
funds,
baffled.
funds are dispersed. I mean, that much money is dispersed in full. And are we saying that there was no oversight function, or are we saying that that different bodies in cahoots here? Because I wouldn't release $35 million to an individual or to a company to do a job and then just go forth and do what you want to
So
do.
that's why I refer to the contract award process, because we're not privy to that. But when we hear things like this, suspicions are quick to rise, because I mean, these are not usual. This is not a usual process, and governments are supposed to be known for following, or at least attempting to follow, some measure of the process, even though there may be some hanky panky along the way. Mr. C.
Okay, so two things or three things. One, number one, you cannot be calling for investigation of a matter that is already in court. That is just ridiculous. It's like literally placing the cart before the horse and then striking the horse to start moving. Now, two, it's interesting when Gbubemi says we're not privy to the contract process. What contract process are we privy to? When you think about it, look at the coastal road, Lagos Calabar Coastal Project. That is a project that nobody still knows the total cost. The minister in charge of that project still can't give you the total cost. Then Gbubemi says, why did they pay them? Why was the contract sum paid in full? What happened with the coastal project? Was the contractor paid in part? It's part for the cost. So nothing really should come as a surprise or shock to anyone who's been keenly following this event. And the House of Reps is playing to the gallery because they're fully aware this matter is in court. So I'm not sure what these committees are going to do, apart from sitting down, collecting sitting allowances, and doing next to nothing. Because they will still come out with a report, oh, the matter is in court, is sub judice. You didn't need to set up committees to arrive at that conclusion.
And it's also interesting that, apart from this modular refinery that we are now privy to, our other main refineries, the government-owned refineries, the investigation surrounding those ones as well. I mean, it just seems like such an absolute mess across board. I just wonder. Anyways, Mr. C, let me come back to you right now. Let's take a look at this one from the Vanguard, where the federal government has launched the National Job Center Project. That's a nationwide network of employability hubs aimed at tackling unemployment and promoting dignified, inclusive, and transformative work for Nigerians. The Minister of State for Labor and Employment, Nkirika Onyejocha, announced the initiative while speaking at the MasterCard Foundation annual Nigeria Partner Convening held in Lagos yesterday. Now, according to the minister, the project is a key component of President Tinubu's Renewed Hope agenda, designed to connect trained Nigerians to real job opportunities and also strengthen the country's labor market infrastructure. What does this all mean?
That's a very good question. I don't know what it means. We're in the 29th month of a 42-month tenure, and we have a public officer who is paid by the public coming out to issue a vacuous statement. Now, you've launched the National Job Center project. What does that mean? Does it mean it is now up and running, or we have started the process of launching? What does that mean? That's the first question. Second question is, according to her, it's designed to connect. The project is a key component of the Renewed Hope agenda, designed to connect trained Nigerians to real job opportunities and strengthen the country's labor market infrastructure. I'm sorry, we already have private sector players doing that. And I must say, they're doing it very, very well. Now, is it the government that cannot keep a website updated, that will keep applications of interested Nigerians real time? Is it this same government that sometimes websites are down, that will monitor a portal for Nigerians foolish enough to trust them?
But shouldn't we give the government benefit of the doubt?
So you look at a person's track record before you decide to work with a person. How have they managed their own portals? How are they managing their own portals? What government website gives information as of September? Apart, say, from the CBN and maybe the Debt Management Office. How many give you real-time information that is accurate and up to date? Then I would have thought that at this meeting, or this function, she would have proudly announced how many jobs they created and then how many jobs they're looking to create through this exercise. Because again, when you rule by propaganda and lies, it will show. They continue to tell us the worst is behind us. We've turned the corner, things are looking great, reforms have started to yield results. So, what joblessness are you seeking to eradicate? Don't forget, the NBS gave us a very ridiculous unemployment rate of 4%, given their definition of employment. It's just really tragic. Now, she says there are centers all over the place, no locations. We don't know where to look for these centers. Now, it's also interesting. This is the third year of the administration. And traditionally and conventionally, in this third year, real politicking starts because everybody is looking with an eye to the elections next year. And if we take what the National Assembly is proposing, that the elections will hold in November next year, you can see political season is accelerating. So if you couldn't get it done within the first 2 years, what is the guarantee or the possibility that you will make it happen within the next 10 months? How will these centers be funded? Where is the funding coming from? What areas are you seeking to plug? So, for example, have you noticed we have a shortfall of nurses, a shortfall of doctors, a shortfall of technicians, a shortfall of software engineers? What are you trying to plug? What hole are you trying to plug? What information are you looking with? What is the criteria? It is well,
Indeed, it is. I mean, one thing I will say is that sometimes it doesn't matter how you start; it's how you finish. Yes, indeed.
No, but have they even started? Because you must separate audio comments from reality on the ground. On paper, all of this sound good. On paper, have they started being actualized? And I invite our listeners, if you have more details on these job centers and where they can be found, please send us a comment.
Because it sounds so very vague, when you look at it at face value. Evans in Adjust says, where are the jobs when companies are actually folding up? Well, questions and more questions. All right, well, let me come back to you here and talk about Nigeria's inflation rate. We talked about the MBS already. Well, we're talking about them again now. This is in the Guardian, where it says that Nigeria's inflation rate has dropped to 18.02%. That's according to MBS data. Now, they disclosed that as of August, the headline inflation was 20.12%, and the inflation rate in September was 0.72%, while food inflation rate was negative 1.57% month on month, and so on and so forth. Now, it attributed the decrease to the drop in the average prices of maize, grains, gari, beans, millet, potatoes, onions, eggs, tomatoes, fresh pepper, and so on and so forth. Interesting numbers. I mean, once again, a decrease in the numbers. But is that the true picture?
So what I always, what excuse me, what I usually say is, yeah, these are like statistics, but the average man does not understand. The average man on the streets probably does not understand all the statistics. All they want to know is rice was X naira yesterday. Is it still X naira today, or X plus one, or X minus one, or whatever? So those for me are like the realities. I don't see any significant changes in the prices, of foodstuff, for example. When we translate to things like even transportation, look at gas, look at petrol. Petrol is now about plus 15 naira or so from last week.
There's that, and we all know the ripple effect
Exactly.
when those prices go up.
Now, petrol and gas, for example, were blamed on the
Pengasan
New Peng strike or whatever. This is how many days after that, nothing has happened. So, you know, our prayer is that, all these improvements in inflation rates should translate into reality, but that does not appear to be the case because things aren't necessarily becoming cheaper. Things aren't necessarily becoming easier for people. So it's nice to tout all the statistics and all of that, but to be honest, it would be nice to also know how all of these the fact finding and research and all of that to back up the calculations was done. But the reality on ground, like I said, is things aren't necessarily getting that much better. If we look at the reality, if we look at the so-called improvements in the inflation rates, I really don't see the improvements. We want to see the improvements, but I mean, I struggle to see the improvements. And sometimes I wonder, are they okay? So I live in Lagos. I don't necessarily know what's happening in detail in other parts of the country. So is it that things are significantly better in other parts of the country and is overshadowing what's happening in Lagos? I don't necessarily know. But from at least from what I read on the media, from what I also read on social media, people's comments and things like that, I don't necessarily think so. So we would like to see a situation where the statistics translate into our reality. If inflation has reduced by 2% since August, shouldn't we see some sort of effect in the prices of food, in the prices of petrol and gas that we all use, translating also into things like transportation? We're not seeing those things.
We're not seeing those things. Mr. C, because of time, let's jump into this final story here. It's in the Punch, and this one says, as the 2027 general elections approach, President Bola Tinubu is strengthening his political dominance in the South, following a wave of defections by governors and influential politicians from the People's Democratic Party and other opposition parties to the All Progressives Congress. Now, this development has, however, ignited fears of a one-party state, with opposition leaders condemning the mass movement to the ruling party. Well, it looks like the APC is the beautiful bride at the moment. But, this talk about a one-party state, I mean, other parties have not been, put down or shut down and stopped from, being in existence. So I don't know if that one-party state line is actually a factual thing. But just, walk us through this one as quick as you can.
So very quickly, we're not heading towards a one-party state. And for those who know their history, we've been down this road before. 1998, precisely, where the existing 5 political parties endorsed one individual, all lined up behind him. And then guess what? Individual left the stage unceremoniously. And then that event led to a chain of events that brought about the Fourth Republic. Now, the people defecting all over the place, group them together, number them. They're not up to 10,000. Why are people worried? So a few selfish people are defecting. They're all adults, and under the Constitution, you're guaranteed the freedom to move, the freedom to associate with whoever you want to. Let them go. can you silence the voice of the people? So even if all the governors decamp to the APC, the governors, their deputies, their cabinets, and their appointees, I still respectfully submit they're not up to 10,000. And all of them have one vote each. Then the hangers on who depend on them for crumbs. Tack on an extra 700,000, a million, 2 million. Are you suggesting that 2 million people will determine the fate of at least 100 million Nigerians? And when you see the actions of certain institutions, everybody is bowing down to the president. And what they should be bowing down to is the Constitution. An interested law firm applied for a copy of the National Voters Register, and INEC sent them a bill for 1.5 billion. Make it make sense.
Even I had to laugh at that.
No, it's
As
truly
ridiculous as it sounds.
no, it's offensive because it's an electronic copy you're going to send. You're not going to send truckloads of paper. So even institutions are avoiding the Constitution to whom they owe their allegiance and owing their allegiance to an individual. And that is why we continue to have weak institutions here. But nevertheless, it's good to know that not every individual is kissing the ring. Some individuals will never kiss the ring. And as popular as this party, the ruling party, believes it is, come 2026 or 2027, it will have to represent itself at fresh elections.
Sure.
And then the voice of the people will show. Because there's a limit to which you can put a man through. There will come a moment in time, and the man will decide enough is enough. So, for the other governors who haven't defected, quickly defect so that the rest of the country can know what they're dealing with and what they're up against. And to explain why some of them are defecting, the crisis caused in the PDP by Mr. Yesun Wiki has led to this. Because the PDP has a divided exco, and from a political perspective, it is suicide to run under the PDP or even the Labour Party because they're divided down the middle. And we must remember, according to the current laws, the chairman and the secretary must sign, not only sign your nomination form, they must supervise your primaries. Because if you run under the PDP or the LP now, what happened to the APC in Zamfara and River State in 2019 will apply to you.
Divisions, and more divisions in opposition quarter as well. Vox Populi, Vox Dei, the voice of the people is the voice of God, as it is said. Interesting times we're living in. Interesting times definitely ahead. Let me take your messages, a number of them for me to get through. This is Kenny. Good morning to you, Kenny. He says, I agree with the analysis that the job and employment portal is merely propaganda, where the job and the employment going. Okay, let me take that again. I agree with the analysis that the job and employment portal is merely propaganda. Where are the jobs and the employment going to come from? This is the same propaganda on distribution of X billions of naira to the vulnerable people without any records of the beneficiaries. Politics, and politics. Okay, Ajayi Olonilua in Magodo Jerry Sherry says, very good morning to you, Ajayi. Great to have you on the show. And he's greeting the fine gentleman in the studio. He says, our representatives seeking stiffer penalties for certificate forgers are just playing to the gallery, as it's not just about the penalties, but how our corrupt judicial system will indict them in the first place. There's already an existing law that provides a 14-year jail term for examination malpractices and certificate forgery. Well, they want it to be stiffer than just the 14-year jail term, apparently. This is Joseph Menier in Silver Estate. He says, kudos, Mr. C. I always look forward to hearing you speak fearlessly and factually on issues. Why is it very easy for the EFCC and the police to arrest perceived internet fraudsters without investigations, but nonchalant when there are cases of forgery and manipulation of documents at government level and with politicians as well? The relevant agencies feign ignorance. Also, there's no accountability from politicians, elites, and government. For example, the White Elephant Lagos Calabar Coastal Road project, colossal trillions for a few kilometers, which will never be completed. May God help us. You don't know it will be completed now, Joseph. Let's
You
wait and
believe it
see.
to be completed?
Well, I mean, I'm an optimist, so
Okay.
here I am. Barrister Danokuda Inigondo says, good morning, crew. Which committee of the National Assembly has produced any meaningful results in probing financial malfeasance in the past? Routine waste of scarce resources all the time. This is Benito. He says, hi, Ayo, and the analyst in the studio. One party states with on your mandate, we shall stand. National Assembly will
We'll say yes.
Benito, I'm too young for my brain to be muddled like this with this your message, but thank you for sending it all the same. Daniel Investac says, good morning, Smooth. The defections of politicians to the APC is emblematic of the Nigerian political class who stand for nothing except personal interest and self-interest. My worry is when the party implodes and how our society will react. If only we had a credible INEC, then all these movements would not matter. Would they even matter now, though? Gilbert Musa in Festac says, on the proposed check system initiated by the House of Reps to curb certificate forgery, it points again to the need to build strong institutions and get persons with proven track records of integrity to work with such established institutions. And Peter says, let all the governors defect to the APC. Nigerians are not moving. We will disgrace them in the polls. Any attempt to rig will not be tolerated. Peter, your first message, it's not me that you're going to put in trouble because you don't have any evidence to actually back that claim up. But I see your message all the same. Tony Marine says, this political thing is like a pendulum, swings one way today and the other tomorrow. I hope our politicians and especially the ruling party are aware of this. Today, the APC is enjoying the wave of defection and approving of it instead of thinking about a good legislation to prevent such behaviors among elected officials. When they begin to experience their own diminishing returns and the tide turns against them tomorrow, they should not cry foul. May God save our democracy. Yes, indeed. All right, we need to wrap it up on the show this morning. Interesting thoughts and contributions. Thank you all so much for sending your messages in. You are very much appreciated. Big ups to you, Mr. C and Gbubemi, for joining me this morning.
Thank you very much for having me.
Mr. C.
Thank you, Ayo. Thank you, Gbubemi. Thank you, Lagos.
All right, Lagos, thank you all so much once again. And of course, do not go anywhere. Keep it tuned to the Smooth Breakfast, 8:15. You already know it's all about entertainment, gist, and the good stuff in the grapevine. The X in the corner.
Analysis of national current affairs.